Hello to you all. Amitofo. We will start the class with a bow and a recitation of the four great vows. Please bow. I vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings. I vow to cut off endless vexations. I vow to master limitless approaches to Dharma. I vow to attain supreme Buddhahood. Welcome to you all. Today's going to be a bit of a different class than I've had recently. And it's going to be both audio and visual. I'm going to project some pictures to go along with what I'm talking about. It's not going to be a PowerPoint, although it starts off that way, and you may think it's a PowerPoint, but it's not a PowerPoint. What I want you to do is I want you to feel the pictures that are being projected and try to picture whatever the story is that I'm going to be telling you. I'm going to be telling you a lot of stories today. It's not going to be about the profound wisdom Dharma, but on the other hand, it's going to be about the profound wisdom Dharma, but through pictures and stories. And what I want you to do is I want you to be able to use these uh, visualizations, these pictures, to visualize what the story is about, not just putting yourself in the same place of where this is happening, but also feeling it from the heart, from the participants, and to feel what's there. We're going to be talking about sincerity, and you're going to find there's many different facets about sincerity. Some of you have received communications from me, and you know that when I sign off, I don't sign off and say Metta Gilbert, or very truly yours. I sign off sincerely, and to me, it's an important part of the practice. This sincerity is something that we'll get into the word in a moment, but one master said that your practice should be that when you are around people, you should act as if you were just at home by yourself. And when you're at home, you should act as if there is a group of guests present. This seems very simple, but can you do it? It's not really easy to do something like that. And to whether one wants to puff themselves up in front of a crowd or want to do something that's inappropriate at home, there is a lack of sincerity there. Not everybody's perfect, so don't worry. There's no Chan cameras at home watching what you're doing, or any cameras in the public to watch. But more so in the public, you have to be very, very careful. But it is something that, because in our practice we demonstrate sincerity all the time, and that's what this is about. So we're gonna start. I'm gonna start with the English word first, and it's kind of interesting because I've always talked about the. Can you put the slide up of the La Pieta, the Michelangelo picture? In I always talk about the root of this word, but then I read somebody who said, "Oh, the root isn't this word, but it is." You see here, sincera is a word, and it has a Latin base to it, to be without wax. In the old days, when they were making these marble statues, a lot of times the sculptor would make a gouge um, into the art piece, which he cannot fix. So they would put some wax to fill the gouge, and then smooth it out, and just hope it doesn't get so hot that the wax would pour out. But in the old days, they would say, this is without wax. This is pure. This is a pure marble statue. There was somebody that I read online a couple of days ago, and they said, oh, well, that's not really the root of this word. But actually, the root of the word, the sin, actually comes from Sanskrit. And it's not like sin. It's sin meaning without. And without wax here, I think that it was the same thing, whether it was initially that way or not, the sincera, because that comes from the Latin base of the word that is sinceros, which is the same thing. When you say that, they're saying sincere, but no, it has to be because it's without wax, because ceros means wax, whether it's in Italian or Spanish or Latin. And so the point is that we act in a way that we don't have any kind of an agenda, secret agenda, or anything that we're covering up. We always act, and what you see is what you get, and you try to act this way irregardless of wherever you're at. And so when we look at the word, and then you can put the satya one up. The term in Sanskrit is satya, and that should be number one. Hopefully it did. And so you see the word here, and I think all of you know Sanskrit. So on the right-hand side, you'll see the word in Sanskrit, satya. And satya means the truth or the essence. And it's a special kind of a virtue, and found across from this truth or the essence. And this is very important because it's referring to me, as I see that, is via body, speech, and mind. One is reflecting or demonstrating the Buddha nature. So one is in accord with the Buddha nature. Of course, we're not have complete enlightenment. We are not Buddhas, but we have, nevertheless, we are Buddhas in our nature. And it's just because we have confusions and vexations that prevents us from seeing clearly. But the act of being sincere in whatever we do enables us to see clearer and clearer. Please, you have to trust me on this. The more sincere you are, the better your practice is going to be. And so in the etymology of this meaning of satya, it says that it means true and consistent with reality in one's thought, speech, and action. So we have to always be this way, and we can say that the Buddha is in the present moment. So when the Buddha is in the present moment, we see things not from our eye, not from the ego, not from the idea of a life and being, but just simply the mind and its naked awareness and its interest in harmonizing. So this is where we start off in terms of this, and we will go to the first or the next slide, which would be the slide of a filial parrot, if you have that one. Okay, these are actually two slides. The one on the right is an enhancement of the one on the left. And this is a story, some of you have heard this story of the filial parrot. And I have to always laugh because I have one of my students that I always call a parrot, and filial because he reminds me of this story. And but the story was one where this parrot was a very good parrot and a very good child. But the story went that the mother parrot was ill, and the son wanted to take care of the mother, and was doing so, and then decided to go out to pick some berries that she really liked and had some medicinal properties to it. But during this time period, parrots were very well valued, and any parrot that was out in the wild would be destined to be caught by trappers so that they could sell them to other people. And that's what happened to this filial parrot, was that he was trapped and spent a lot of time in captivity. Um, and but when he was able to escape, he went back to his mother, but his mother had already passed away. So he felt very, very bad and felt like he had failed her. And although it wasn't his fault that he had gotten captured, and he was beside himself with grief and sorrow, and Guanyin Pusa appeared to him and comforted his suffering. And um, and he felt so touched by her gesture of taking away his suffering, and that he brought a necklace to her, a very precious necklace to her. And if you see a lot of the statues, you'll see the necklace on the statues of Guanyin. But here's the moment when this parrot uh, is bringing this and feeling the sincerity of Guanyin, and then returning the sincerity in a way to offer Guanyin something back in this way. And so on many illustrations, Chinese illustrations, you will see this these pictures of this one. This one actually is very close to my house in Claremont, California, and I've made it my vow to one day go and see this one in person. It's at trying to remember it's one of the Claremont colleges. I don't remember exactly which one, but it's there. And I don't know if Professor Pond is here, but Professor Pond would be familiar with this illustration. But this is a story of a sincerity that's there, and the Guanyin not only comforting the parrot, but the parrot understanding this sincerity that's there, and understanding that wanting to be close to Guanyin to assist in the delivering of sentient beings and the removal of suffering. So I start with this one because to me, I think this is a very important gesture, and on both sides, and a representation of what sincerity is. Um, did I miss one of the
Shitigarba? I think, did you want to talk about Shitigarba?
in terms of
the,
did I mention the oh, excuse me, I don't know if there was any other um, written slides. Was that it? Oh, there we go. Yes. So the word, how do you say it? Savarupa?
Svarupa.
Swarupa. And for some reason, I've forgotten what that word means. If you could remind me. There it is. Swarupa is the essential nature, and terms often used synonymously with swabhava. This again is very interesting because there's a combination of satya and swarupa, meaning that this is your essential nature or your true nature. And and it's also connected with Swarupa and Swabhava, which is a being. And it's interesting here because when we talk about bodhisattvas, we talk about an enlightened being. And so there is a mystery here, and it's very esoteric as to what we are. And people will be asking, well, what am I? Am I something? Am I not something? And being a being, is that like a sentient being, or is that something else? And an enlightened being is there, but it's not to be understood in the same way as a sentient being of let's say in the six realms. It isn't in this way. It's a true being, a true nature, and in its function, it may appear, and but it is true to its form. And I can't say is a male or female because it isn't in this way. It is just the being of the Buddha nature. And so it's very important when we see this and we understand that there is this kind of an understanding of what mind really is. And this is where the sincerity comes from, is from this. I don't have any other ones on that, do I? Okay. And I have to apologize because I was putting this together and send it over to Senta last night, and it's bit of putting this together very quickly. But in any case, we'll continue on. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Let me see something. Okay, I'm back with glasses. Um, I've had double cataract surgery, and my eyesight's coming back, but completely. And I'm slowly beginning to get close sight, but not completely. So I put some cheaters on so I can read this, and that'll make it a little bit easier for me. Okay. I was trying not to use them to become reliant upon them, but this definitely makes a difference for me to read. So this idea of this truth is this truth in the absolute. Um, it is not a truth that has an opposite of a falseness to it. And that's what's important when we understand that. And then when we act and we act sincerely, we reflect this kind of an understanding. Um, we we can get to the I have it down as number 3, Disampusa. This is a picture of Kitsi Garba, and in Chinese it's Disan Pusa. In English, it's Earth Store Bodhisattva. And many of you know this normally referred to as Disan Pusa rather than use the Sanskrit name, just because I'm around many Chinese. But I will just tell you the story very, very quickly about this. And of course, some of you know the story. And I highly recommend reading the Earth Store Bodhisattva Sutra because it's very amazing. Not only that, but it's very sobering and will kind of scare you about where you could end up in if you don't practice carefully. But this was one of the filial daughter that was looking. Her mother died, and she was trying to find where her mother was at. And when she died, she made many offerings to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, and tried her hardest to give many the offerings to the Buddhas, and of incense and flowers and mantras, everything to try to help her mother. She was afraid, and then so she actually went down to hell to look for her mother. And when she went there, she found one person that was talking to her and saying, how did your mom end up here? And she said, well, because my mom, she wasn't a very good practitioner, and she doubted a lot of the Buddha Dharma. So it was difficult for her. So I know that she ended up here in hell. I want to try to get her released. And so then they went, well, this is very difficult to get her released. And then they said, let me check what happened to her. And so maybe they punched it in, or however they did it to figure out how to find out where she was at, and they said, no, she's not here anymore. She was here, but due to so much devotion that was given by her daughter, and an encouragement for others to do the same, uh, she she was now in one of the higher heavens, and and so this struck Disan Pusa very much, and instead of leaving there, then decided that the power of the heart, the power of sincerity, this filial power, was so strong that it could be used for all sentient beings. And in fact, many other sentient beings were released at the same time. So then Disan Pusa became Disan Pusa, there was a calling and understanding that this is what was needed to help guide people away, one, to avoid being sucked into hell, but also to deliver those who were there. So this was a great sincerity. No, it would be like, how would you like to spend, eternity in hell? But to Disan Pusa, because of the great sincerity and the power of the vows, was not in hell. It was establishing a Pure Land in hell, and surrounding the environment around Disan Pusa with the Pure Land, hoping to extend it to all hell dwellers as well. This is very amazing. I mean, we go, well, I'm a Pure Land practitioner, so I want to go to the Pure Land. I don't want to be here. And others of us say, well, we want to come back to the Earth and the human sentient beings to deliver people. And they go, well, what about hell? And you go, well, that's a little bit too much. So this is a great bodhisattva to be able to do something like this. And so in any case, that is the story of Disan Pusa and the sincerity. Again, I'm cutting the story very short, but I just wanted you to get a feel for how sincerity works in many different ways, and the different facets of doing that. Oh, okay. And then I see I took that out of order. And then I want to talk about Dhammo, or Bodhidharma. Bodhidharma is considered the first patriarch of Chan. He was an Indian that came to China and felt that that needed further cultivation in terms of preparation and study, presenting things to the Chinese. And so it struck upon him to go into a cave and conduct a practice of simply wall gazing. Wall gazing was um, let's say, the impetus of the practice of Chan meditation. Although there had been meditation before Damo arrived in China, it is often attributed to Damo to be the first one to really, let's say, uh, advance it. And so it was from this ability just to simply sit in a cave for for several years and just and and have a, a keeping the mind appropriately blank. And we we wonder about that, and we wonder, well, how could they do that? I mean, like eat or drink or whatever. But again, mind is very, very powerful, and it's something that um, it can do many things. It can change the idea of reality in any given moment, depending on the person's focus and the propriety of what they're doing. Um, Actually, I had one qigong master that his master had a prerequisite for him, which was that he was going to he needed to sit for 1 week without getting up, without going to the bathroom, without drinking or anything, just sit for 1 week, which he did. And no, so we would wonder, wouldn't he die from this or wouldn't he die from that or pass out or whatever? But it's different. It's different depending on the person and how they can eat bitter and be able to put down the ideas of their body and their ideas that I need to check my cell phone, and probably some of you, when you're sitting, you go through withdrawals after only 45 minutes. You want to look at your phone, and as soon as you finish, then right away you pick up your phone. So it's harder these days than before. But in any case, there's a sincerity of wanting to practice. Damo's sincerity was incredible, in terms of that. And then we come to Hueca, the second patriarch, that he came and he wanted to practice with Damo, but Dama would not let him do that. And I've got a couple of slides, one from me and one from Sentha. This is a very ancient one, and again, probably Professor Pong could tell us where these originated from. But this one shows, in some way, in the artist's rendition, of scratching out the arm, meaning that Hueca went to see Damo and asked for practice, but Damo didn't come out of his meditation. He just ignored him until finally Hueca, he cut off his arm. There he is right there. And then you see at that point, then Damo it is turning around and going, well, this is an exceptional student that he's doing this. And please don't try this at home. This is something that you're not going to impress me. Okay, I have to say that so people won't come and hand me their arm. It takes a special person, a great sincerity to do that, and that's what they were demonstrating. This is a sincerity of, I don't care about my body. I care about the Dharma. And so this is then another one of Weka and Damo, and so could you do that? We see these pictures and the expressions, and saying, can you do that? and Dhamma was himself had cut off his eyelids so he wouldn't fall asleep. That's why he's always depicted with big bulging eyes. So he was very sincere as well. And so these were the first two patriarchs of our Chan school, and believe me, these two could eat bitter. And we go to retreat and we start crying inside after only 2 days at a retreat. And we have to learn how to eat bitter, to put the body aside and practice with our heart, with sincerity. So these definitely met the Hall of Fame for sincerity in Chan Buddhism. The next story I want to tell you about is Master Xu Yuan, and this is Master Xu Yuan. He was about 120, 119 years old when he passed away. And you can see from the pictures that there's a calmness there. It's radiating from the pictures. And I believe the one on the left is a portrait, and the one on the right is a picture or photo of him. But on the left I picked because it shows a sincerity, a calmness. And in sincerity, there's a calmness. There's no pretense there. He doesn't have to prove anything to anybody. He just wants to use this body, and he used it for 120 years to try to give the Dharma. And so, heck, if I did that, I would still have 47 years left. So not bad, if you can practice that long. I don't think my body's going to last that long because he was very, very special. But in any case, it is something that we see. But the story here was earlier on in his career, and he was in a biguan, a solitary retreat, and he was up a mountainside, and he went to his cave that he was in, and he had worked on preparing some vegetables to cook, and lit a fire and put it there. And then he sat down to meditate. And he had said later that one doesn't sit to meditate intentionally and say, I'm going to sit for a long time. There's just a sincerity in simply sitting with no expectations whatsoever. That's all we have to do when we go to retreat, but we don't understand that. So we cannot sit like he did. And so after 2 weeks, the other masters that were on the mountainside had noticed that he had not come down for any provisions or anything. So they went, I wonder what happened to him. Maybe we better do a welfare check on him. So a group of them went up the mountain to find his cave and entered it. And there he was, and he was just simply sitting in repose, meditating. And when they walked in, they said, are you alive? Are you okay? And he said, yes, yes. And they told him, I'm so happy that you're here. Come in. You can share the pot of soup with me. And they looked and they saw that the fire had long gone out, and the water in the soup had long dried up, and the vegetables were moldy, and because he had been sitting there for 15 days without getting up. And he was very, very calm, but as soon as he awoke, he simply followed function to welcome his cohorts in and to make them comfortable and to offer them something to eat. He was oblivious of the human needs at that point, and he was just simply in a very high level state of repose. people often ask me, they have problems, and I probably get maybe 4 or 5 people contacting me per week about this and saying, "How can Sean help me? I can't sleep. I can't do this. Uh, my wife, my husband, my girlfriend, whatever it is, my work, boss, and I can't rest, and I'm tired all the time, and I'm trying to practice, but I can't." And Shifu was the one that said that we have to rest in the present moment. So Master Shu Yuan, his name in English meant empty cloud, um, just rested in the present moment. So when he sat, he just sat. There was no necessity to get up. There was no minding a clock or finding out what time it is or anything like that. It was just simply him um, seeing things as they were. A very sincere practitioner, such a great practitioner that was um, living his life for um, for the benefit of all sentient beings and trying to help as much as he could. And he again was the epitome of sincerity in his life. So he again makes the Hall of Fame of sincerity. Now we'll get to another story, um, and this story is actually one about a king. Is an It says CB. I don't know how you'd pronounce. How do you pronounce that in
Sibi.
Sibi? Okay, so it's not CB. It's Sibi. So King Sibi, and um, he was a very great king. In the past, he actually was the boot one of the Buddha's past lives, and so he was there, and one day he was sitting on his throne, and a dove comes flying in and lands on his lap, soon followed by a hawk, and the King Sibi held the dove, very unusual, and says, "Why do you come here?" And he says, I seek protection." And he says, "What do you seek protection for?" And he said, "Because the hawk wants to eat me." And so he said, and then the hawk goes, "Hey, come on, king, you can't discriminate. you know there's laws against discriminating and holding the dove over a hawk. It is my nature to eat the dove. That's just the way it is. And so I have to live, and I have little chicks in the nest that need to be fed. So how can I do it if you protect all the doves? After a while, it's going to be a dove sanctuary here. But I need to eat for the benefit of the future generations. So the King Sibi was very perplexed about this problem. What could he do? So he instructed his uh, uh, attendants to bring a knife and a bucket, and he said, "I will cut off the amount of flesh that's necessary to to be equal to the weight of the dove, so that I will offer you my body in proportion, direct proportion for that." And the hawk went, "Hey, meat is meat. I'll take it. I understand that." And so they started cutting, and you see in the upper left hand corner picture that he's there, and obviously in a bit of discomfort. This is the king on the left, and you see the person squatting there with a knife, cutting the flesh. I wouldn't cut it off of that. There's not much there. That's like less than, a chicken wing. No, but they were cutting it off, and then they were putting it on scale. The one in the middle, and I think the scale didn't, I think something broke off of it in there, but it probably would have had the dove there, and you see in the bottom one there's it's another rendition of that where the scale is there, and so they're offering he's offering this food for the hawk to save the life of the dove. And the funny thing, it wasn't really funny, sorry. The thing was is that every time he cut a piece of meat off of them, that it didn't move the scale. It did. The dove was still weighed more than the meat they were cutting off of him, and they were cutting at some point big chunks off of King Sibi's body, and he's like going, "What the heck?" And this doesn't even make any sense until he jumped on the scale himself, and it still didn't move. What was happening was Indra was testing him to see how far he would go or how much he would lose. And so, but he didn't move the scale. He was willing to put his whole body onto the scale and offer it to the hawk. I'm not really sure what the hawk was thinking. He might have been seeing like the humanity of it all, or he could be saying, "Wow, this is going to be a big meal." We don't have anything that says what the hawk was thinking at this point. The dove was just going like, "Hey, as long as I'm saved, I'm good." And King Sibi's heart was so great at this point because he'd already now progressed through so many lives. He had become a king, and not just a king, but a very protective king and very judicious king. And so in these pictures, I wanted to show it to you because I think it helps when you see something and you realize what is being offered here. So then Indra and his attendant just looked at him and said, "Okay, this was just a prank." Um, I mean, as I guess in our present day vernacular, you could say it was a prank, but it was a test, and to see how far he would go. And so when Indra saw this, then he restored all the meat that had been taken off of King Sibi back to him. Again, another Hall of Fame recipient for sincerity. This is sincerity. Can you do this? We've seen the sincerity of a mother or a daughter to a mother, and now we see the sincerity of a king, the sincerity of practice, an individual practice from Master Shu Yun. But now we get to another one, and this is kind of an interesting story. And this story is, you have to picture it in the Japanese feudal time, and there was a samurai that was not satisfied with his life. He was very concerned about the consequences of what he had done in his life, and it was troubling him. So he went to a Buddhist master to ask him a question. So the question that he asked him was, "I want to know, is there a heaven and is there a hell?" And the Buddhist monk just looked up at him, and he had been sitting down, and the samurai was standing, and he said to him, "If your um, if your sword is as dull as your wit and intelligence, I doubt if it could cut my head off." And so the samurai was so um, shocked and angered by what this monk said and how he insulted him, and these words penetrated to his core. He immediately unsheathed his sword and held it up, prepared to decapitate the monk. And the monk just loosened his collar and gave him a clear shot, just bent down, and he said, "Therein lie the gates to hell." And it shocked the samurai. He was ready for this. He knew that he could see his fate in the words of the monk, and yet the monk was not shaking. He was willing to risk literally his own neck to help this samurai. And he sat quietly. When the samurai saw what he was about to do and the gravity of it all, just simply because of what the monk had said, and he was seeking the advice of this monk, and he was so quick to want to cut his head off, he simply sheathed his sword again. And the monk said, "Therein lie the gates to heaven." And this is very, very powerful, because this monk was willing to give his own life for the benefit of the samurai. And as a result of it, then it's made its way on down to this present day as a very powerful statement of sincerity, the sincerity of teaching that I don't offer my head to any of you, so don't get any ideas, but I offer my time all day long, all night long to you, to help you, and to do that. Sometimes I may insult some of you, but I'm not insulting you. I'm insulting your ego, or prompting you to look deeper into it. Some may think it's an insult, but it's not really. It is just trying to probe you, or what they say is to stick a fork in you to see if you're done or not. So this is something that is there. And by the way, we're not gonna have all the time. I've got to decide whether I'm going to do this on 2 nights or do it on continue on during the question period. But I'll see how far I go with this, because right now we're literally only halfway through to this in terms of it. But you definitely Hall of Fame material. Um, the next story is a very good story, and this is about Asanga and Maitreya Milafo. This is Asanga here, and he's depicted kind of in a Tibetan garb, because he is very highly revered by Tibetans, and his teachings and are very highly done. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but I will go back to that at the end of the story. At this point, he was very much wanted to be uh, uh, to understand more. A Sangha historically was someone that had started with the Theravada Abhidharma, and then switched to Yogacara, and really flourished with these teachings, and so even to this day, there was a question from some on the Theravadan camp, that an argument making it that there was two Asangas, one was a Mahayana and one was a Theravadan. But most historians debunk that contention and say there was only one. He and his half brother Vasubandhu then really flourished in the Yogacara school, and but again, I'm getting ahead of myself. In terms of it, this is like where he's transitioning, and he went on a solitary retreat that he wanted to see Maitreya, and he was very devotional to Maitreya. So his solitary retreat was just giving respect to Maitreya, and this is I wanted to show you this. To me, is how I see Maitreya. Okay, and this is the Buddha that is coming, that it was in Tusita heaven. So we'll come back to this Buddha and this portrayal of this one. Well, thank you. We're going back to Asanga, and Asanga's in where we left him. He was in a biguan, a solitary retreat, and when he was in this retreat, he was trying as much to make a connection with Milafo, Maitreya. He really wanted to feel it, to see it, to do something, to make this connection. And he was incredibly devotional for many years. Finally, he went, and there was like two occasions, but I'll just mention one of them. When he decided he was going to leave, he wasn't going to get there, and he left his hut. And when he left his hut, he was walking down the road, and he saw this man, and he had like a broom made out of feathers, and he was at the top of this rise of a like a little hill, and he was brooming it and brooming it and brooming it, the top of it. And Asanga said, "Dear fellow, what are you doing?" And he said, "My hut is over here, and there's a beautiful waterfall over here, but this hill blocks it. So I'm trying to get rid of that so that I can see the waterfall clearly. So I'm just wiping away the hill." And Maitreya was going, "I don't understand that. How do you think? Do you know how long it's going to take you with that little broom, feather broom, to try to make this hill disappear? It's so many years, many lifetimes. How could you possibly think that that's going to work?" And the old man just said, "Nevertheless, I will continue to it. Just sweep, 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 sweep." And Asanga was so shamed. He said, "I've been there for like a few years, and this man's talking about lifetimes. My practice pales in comparison to his practice. It's really, really shameful that I left the hut. I'm going back to the hut to practice more." And there was another story very similar to that took more and more time. But finally, Asanga said, "He's not coming. I've asked him to come, invited him, chanted to him, gave him praise no matter what. I still give him praise, but I don't think he's going to come." And so he decided to call it quits and leave the hut. As he was walking down the road, he saw this dog in the ditch. And this dog was maggot infested, especially in his hindquarters. He had had a horrible wound, and he had a lot of maggots. And you can see this is like an ancient picture. And I wish if Anu Pon knows of these pictures, put something in the chat notes. If he's here, I don't know if he is or not, but to let us know where these pictures come from. But this one looks like it's pretty old. And so here is a Sangha with this dog, and knowing that the dog has to get rid of these maggots. But then when he was going to do that, he picked up a stick and he was going to take the maggots out. And he said, no, I can't do that because I'm going to harm the maggots. And the maggots, they too have a life. So why should I take their lives to help this life? This is a non-duality, non-discrimination, non-differentiation. So he thought, what can I do? And so he got down on his knees. You can see him holding on to the dog. And the next thing that he's going to do is use his tongue to lift the maggots off of the wound. Now, by this point in time, I think a lot of you are going to go, no, I'll save the dog, but the maggots. This is sincerity. This is wisdom. This is total unbridled compassion. This is great, great sincerity to do something like this. That's why the story comes in this way. Could you do something like that? When he bent down to lick the maggots out, the dog turned into Milafo, into Maitreya. There he is in full regalia. And this is probably pre-Chinese Milafo, much more slender and muscular. I like this version of him, and you see there's something about this picture that I'm very much drawn to, and the feel of it, that because whoever painted it in a way that I've had visualizations in this way, and it really is remarkable, because you'll see at the top like the clouds of incense that are wisping up at the very top of the picture, and around them in the adornment of flowers, almost looking like clouds as well, and so sitting on a lotus. And it's just an incredible picture of Maitreya. And so when we see this, then this is how he appeared. I'm not saying exactly as the picture, but he was there. And so then a Sangha looked at him. He was so stunned. And do you know what he said? He went, "It's about time you showed up." No, he was just, "Why haven't you showed up before? I've been calling you and calling you. You don't pick up. Just calling you all the time. You never picked up." And he said, "I've always been there. When you encountered this situation and you encountered the one that was brooming the mountain, that was me. You just didn't recognize me. That was me, pushing you more and more to practice harder, practice more sincerely, not looking for some extraordinary appearance, but to really go deeper into the practice, to be more sincere with the practice. So he said, wow, can anybody see you? And he says, no, no, you can only see me because of your practice, your you know unceasing practice for so long, and your sincerity. You can see me. And he goes, but I can see you. And he said, take me to the town. So he said, okay. So so Milafo got on his shoulder, and he was taking Milafo to the town, and he was going and saying to the people, do you see anything? Do you see anything? People go, what are you talking about? You're cuckoo. I don't see anything. I just see this monk. And he kept going till finally he saw this old lady, and she just looked at him. And he got excited because she was looking at him like she could see something, right? She was looking at him like that. And then she finally said, what are you doing with a sick dog around your neck? So she couldn't see Milafo, but she could see the dog. So she was a practitioner, but not compared to him what he could see. Unfortunately, now the rendition of Milafo looks like this. It's so sad. So this is Milafo going to Las Vegas or somewhere. I don't know where this is, but to me it's go back to the other one. You see, it's totally different. It's so majestic. And now, they turn Milafo into something that you would find in front of or after you enter into a Chinese restaurant with a polished belly, because everybody wants to rub the belly. But it's okay if this is Milafo to you. It's fine. I would lose the monies and everything else there, but that's fine. In any case, that's the story, and I think that one is a great story. I think that's a good story to finish for today. Um, I could keep going, but it would take me probably another 45 minutes to do that. So I'd rather not do it. I was hoping I could get through them all, but we'll carry this on for next week because I want to sincerely present this in a way that's very meaningful and touching to everyone. That's why I presented the story with the detail there, that you can feel something from this. And then to finish, a sangha then would go to Sita heaven to be taught directly by Maitreya. And from these teachings, he would come back down to earth and then put them in a form that um, human sentient beings could understand, because how he was taught was more esoteric and more deep and profound than humans could really handle. But if you pour into his treatises, then you will find that from those treatises there is a door to the esoteric there, and one can go further than what is written there. It's an invitation for people to contemplate and to look into deeper and deeper. And this is how we do it. And he pushed it out about as far as he could in the human realm with that carrot on the stick, a little bit further than than humans can reach, but yet still wanting to be drawn further and further into it, just like Milafo had drawn him into the practice further and further and further. This is his style as well. This is a great sincerity, a great interest in the practice. And so this is something that if you begin to read his renditions of what he was taught, it's incredibly deep. And so hopefully this will help you. And then again, that's where his brother Vasubandhu and he really began working very diligently in the Yogacara school. That's why Asanga appears to have the Tibetan garb on, because the Tibetans really picked up on these very profound and deep sutras, and where Chan seems to kind of like don't quite push it out that far, although it's there and although it's in the sutras that are there. There's some reluctance to want to go that way, but they should not do that, because this is so profound, so excellent Dharma, that we should uh, be like a Sangha and keep pushing and pushing and pushing and let this work. And that what pushes us is a sincerity of wanting to really explore further what this practice is. And so I hope that this will instill in you the a motivation to push yourself beyond what you think your capabilities are. Maybe you can't, let somebody cut pieces of meat off of you, but I let people do that all the time, in terms of my body, and um, I don't get above here. I want to quit while I'm still ahead. But sorry. Um, that was a joke in case you guys missed it. But in any case, it's something that we practice in this way. We give up this body, or we how would you say, we offer this body to the Buddha. When we practice in this way, then we're not too far from it. Okay. Well, there's already questions coming up, but we will continue on next week. I hope that this was helpful to you. Again, this was something that it's not just pictures. The pictures are to connect with the heart and to let you see something special there. So hopefully that helps you. We'll have a second dose next week, which will be, I think, it's probably better to do it in that way than to do it all at once. But thank you for listening. I hope this benefited you, and even if it benefited you a little bit, it's something. Okay, I will take the questions.
Amitofo, everyone. Amitofo, Sensei Ji. I just wanted to start by saying much gratitude to, of course, you continuing to put forth and applying your proper effort in each lecture. They're truly treasures to me. I was actually almost not going to attend this one tonight just because of causes and conditions, but I'm very glad that I did. When I entered into the chat, you were getting to I don't know when you started the slideshow with all the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, but I really am glad that I came in on the time I did with how you were applying the approach to and referencing to the sincerity of practice and being diligent. And that's something I feel I've always struggled with from the get-go to a certain degree, but especially as my my practice has matured to a certain degree. In retrospect to the last 7-day retreat that I did, well, it was my first one with you, because the very first one I only attended 4 days, but the 7-day one I did last October was wonderful. But since then, getting back into the samsaric duties and everything like that, I always fall back into the obstructions within and my mind and in certain aspects, not as much as comparative to where I was at in the beginning of my practice, where I really struggled. And but anyway, I just wanted to kind of share the how this resonated with me, in the sense of it's kind of maybe a reminder to me, just as a practitioner, and anybody else who feels they're lacking in some way, shape, or form in their practice, that it's moments like these where if you continue to come and at least show up and just kind of give yourself a little break and give yourself grace enough to allow yourself to not be so hard on yourself, because I myself need to practice what I preach, because I'm very hard on myself. And this is just a good reminder that after everything I've been through this past year with my dad, and so I deal with a lot of stuff. I deal with a lot of things, and
This is something
yeah,
that
I
we
do
do.
find myself lacking, and I'm just glad to be reminded that I have my sangha to always kind of bring myself back to my practice, even if I feel I'm not a good practitioner at times.
I think what it will help you, Matt, is just the big question: who do you serve? And that will be your lodestone pointing to the north, um, uh, which, by the way, is Anuttara. Um, and so, who do you serve? Do you serve yourself, or practice self-indulgence, or do you serve for the benefit of others? And what can I do to help others? First thing I can do is bring more people to the Dharma, and encourage those with great potential to uh, to push on, to be the essentially the lodestone pointing towards the north, and that's what I do. So whoever I encounter, and again, I'm not. There's no self-aggrandizement in this way. I learned this from Shifu. Um, I am presenting and appearing in a way of what is beneficial to you, and and this is something that, whether I'm a maggot infested dog, or somebody that's there to give you a kick in the booty, I'm I am whatever you need.
Yeah.
And I can encourage people. I can show them the future of where they're headed to, whether it's good or whether it's bad. Most of the time, with a lot of you, I'm showing you what your great potential is, and it is just in this way. If you practice in this way, Matt, you you will practice very, very well. Just bear this in mind, and be patient. It's a a long road, and you're going to hear this and hear these things happen all the time. There wasn't anything that Shifu said that wasn't, that he hadn't said 10 times or more that I heard. It, it's just a repetition and understanding, and little by little, there's a maturation in the practice, and you'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay. You have a sincerity, but you have all of this baggage, and we all do
Yeah.
have baggage, and it's just a matter of learning how to deal with that uh, and put that baggage down so
Right.
that you can pick up other people instead.
Right.
Okay, you're on the right track. Just stay in here. You got it. Thank you. Nick.
Omitofu, Gilbert. I think my question could end up being like a whole talk worth of a question, but I'm curious, as I was listening, I kind of saw the correlation between studying right view and sincerity. I think as we study right view, have faith in mind, naturally we become more sincere practitioners. As we become more sincere practitioners, we have more faith in mind. So I'm just curious if you have any other comments on that, or if it needs to wait for another talk, that's all right as well.
No, you're picking up the message. I mean, after the second dose, I think you'll be even clearer about it and understanding that this sincerity doesn't come from the sentient being. It comes from the heart, from the Buddha nature. And only someone coming from a Buddha nature would be able to have pieces of meat cut off of them, or to do the things that other people have done, or to sit in a biguan for such a long time, years, to try to do something, putting aside. So you're processing it in the right way. This is where I wanted you to see that from different facets. I was saying that to Santha, who I thank for her assistance in doing this. And we were talking about it and talking about what my intention was, in terms of doing this, is for people to make a connection beyond words and phrases, and to see how all of this connects together. And what connects it is mind itself, or the heart mind. And so you're in the right way. And what I wanted to do is not for you just to listen to entertaining stories, but to live the sincerity every single day. So you got it, and you see how it fits. And it isn't a sincerity of a person, but it is the sincerity of one who has seen the truth, and or has at least heard of the truth. And then to see the truth is through the eyes of the Buddha, or the perception of a Buddha. So yeah, you're on the right track. So it's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyi, did you see some of those pictures? The filial parrot one, for instance. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, I have seen some of these, and that particular one is from a set of 32 from the Surangama Sutra.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. So when I was putting these together, I was thinking about you, and knowing that you would recognize some of these. And I tried to find a lot of the ancient pictures rather than present day ones, just simply so that people could identify and see the Buddhist art history in there, and make the connection with it. So yeah, so I hope you like that. So I gave you some homage in your art history studies. So it okay. Yes, Lily.
Hey, hello? Yeah. Amitofo. I'm very touched with the topic of sincerity. I think is the right time to think about it. And then, but my question is about the time. Like, the the even with the great scientists like Einstein, at the end of his life, he was more toward Buddhism in a way, he indicating that time and space are just illusion, illusory mind. So my question is that, especially when I look at the pictures that you show from the ancient Buddha or the historical stories, or they are real people, and then Sheng. So in a way, it's like timeless, and
Yes.
we are still so far to catch up. So can you comment on the concept of time, and how do we seize the day, or how do we catch up?
It's very interesting because there's different ways that we can do it. Nagarjuna, made a good um, uh, practice of in the Madhyamaka school of refutation of time. So anybody who wants to look into that, is it it's very easy to refute the existence of time as some kind of a time constant, because everything in terms of time has to be related to something. It is like as if you were in an ocean and the ocean is a mile deep and you throw an anchor down 300 feet. There's nothing to fix it on. It's not going to do that because it's just going to be dragging behind the ship, but not fixing to anything. And that's our way of measuring time. Our idea of measuring time is to measure it. We have a watch, and the watch is all calculated based on the revolutions of the uh, sun, of us around the sun, and just cutting these into little pieces. But if you go to somewhere else, let's say even if you go to Mars, that time is irrelevant. And if you go to Alpha Centauri, our closest neighbor, it's even more irrelevant. But the idea of this is very important. And there is a practice that I practice that really helps me with that. And that is when I have transmit blessings and transfer merit. I transfer merit not only to the people that are presently existing, but I transfer merit to those who will be coming that are in the so-called future. But I also transmit merit to those who have already appeared to have come and gone. And when we begin to look at things in this way, it changes our idea of reality. It changes our idea of time, because people would say, Gilbert, how can you transfer merit to something that's already happened and already gone? And I'd say, but it doesn't matter, because if I'm transferring merit now, it is a blessing that has already been received in the past. And that blessing might have mitigated something even worse that happened to people, or a worse outcome in the next lifetime by this transmitting of blessings. So I don't hold to any kind of a time. Of course, the body does. I mean, I know the difference between me being a teenager and me now. But the mind that I had as a teenager and the mind that I have now has never changed. And so when we see things in this way, we're consistent with the sutras. So we have to have this great faith. Your question is a very good question, because we begin to see things not as human sentient beings, but as bodhisattvas, enlightened beings. We can't say, and I don't want people to say, "Oh, Gilbert says he's a bodhisattva." I go, "No, I'm not. I'm a Buddha." No, it's not like that. It is the understanding that it is the Buddha nature. And when we understand that and we begin to practice, we're practicing the profound. We're no longer in the Four Noble Truths. We're beyond the Four Noble Truths. We're beyond the meaning of the revised Four Noble Truths. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cessation of suffering, no path. It is beyond any of that. It is where the one goes to. If everything goes to the one, it's where that one goes to, which is mine, because there's no one. How can there be a one when everything is fundamentally empty? And it's this way that we practice. The more we practice in this way, the clearer it gets. The more that one can see things from things. It's very interesting. The other day I was in right before I was going to have my cataract eye surgery, and there was an attendant there, and he had a bracelet, and it was black obsidian with one white little ball on it. And I said, "Where did you get that?" And he goes, "Oh, my sister gave it to me." And I said, "Huh, that's interesting." And she said, it's for protection. And I said, "Yeah, it's good for you to wear that." I said, "Later on, you're going to discover it even more profound than that." And he says, "It seems to me that you know something that other people don't know." And I said, "It could be that way." And so I'm just making a connection with him, not necessarily to connect with me and him, which could be, but a connection with him and the Dharma in the future. And the other day, somebody came to my door, a real estate agent. They're always coming because my area is very hot property for people to buy in. And so they're always knocking on the door, wanting to know if I want to sell my house. And it was a young Vietnamese girl, and young to me, I mean, she's not a teenager, but a young real estate agent. And she had a tattoo of a dragon on her arm. And I was just smiling at her. And then I said, "You're Buddhist?" And she said, "Yes." And then she pointed this little tiny Buddha a pendant on her neck. And she was going, "Oh, well, it's kind of like, well, coming from a family of Buddhists and stuff." And I said, "Very interesting. One day you're really going to know why you have a tattoo of a dragon on your arm, you know." And she was just looking at me, but she was really interested in what I was saying, and knowing that there was something more to it. And sometimes you're just putting these little seeds out there. You're planting a seed here, planting a seed there, smiling at people that never get a smile. And doing that, you help people along the way. All of this is that we have all the time in the world, because even though I'm pushed to try to get something done in this lifetime to establish something like Master Sheng was, uh, I I know that by the power of my vows, I'll be coming back and picking up these seedlings where I planted seeds. They're now seedlings, and bring them forth with me. And those that have been um, uh, um, I've been presenting the Dharma to and are good practitioners, I will rest under their shade of their teachings. And it's this way we see things differently. It's not a continuum of time. It's the time all the time. And and so you're right. This is how we practice. This is how we see the world. If you practice in this way, then your practice will be very, very strong. You're going to take it to the next level. Okay, thank you. Renee.
Thank you, Gilbert. Thank you a lot for your lecture from your heart. I can feel it's all from your heart. I have a question about practice Nian Fo. So I'm a practicing Nian Fo, and in the past I used to care about what kind of feeling would arise after chanting, and also I would try to seek or grasp some certain sensation, and also sometimes worry about whether the wandering thoughts would appear. I felt I use some effort to against this, but now I simply focus on just chanting Buddha's name without concern myself, the wandering thoughts or the feelings. So I found Nian Fo feels much more effortless and natural, very light. So I want to check with you, is this the right direction?
Yes, sometimes even in the night, you may be waking up and reciting the Buddha's name, or it'll just start up on its own. It's kind of like getting into a car and you had something on the radio, or like on, and you turn it on and the music continues and where it left off, and so after a while there's no leaving off. You're always putting the mind in a state of the Nianfo. There is a practice of Nianfo is reciting the Buddha's name, like respect to Amitabha Buddha, Namo Amitofo. And so if you're reciting, we initially start reciting Nianfo from the let's say from the sentient being, and later on it no longer from the sentient being, it comes from the heart, and it automatically is presented by the heart, and it keeps the mind stable, so that it's kind of like a filler, so that one doesn't let their mind idle or stray. And so if I was to think of a jelly donut, then my mind, Nam Amitofa, Nam Amitofa, the jelly donut goes away, and it's no longer having an influence on me. And again, I'm using that because I don't want to think of any like really adverse things that people can think of, or anger that comes up. When we recite, it's hard for us to maintain an anger in our mind, because the Nam Amitofo erases it. It sees through it. It calms the mind. Then we use this as our embarkation point for the transfer of merit. And so again, Renee, this is that you're reciting sincerely, that you're getting these experiences. So the more sincere you are, the more you can project and transfer the merit of the effort that you're putting in. There's more of it there, and it's more sincere, and you unlock the way to be able to truly transfer merit in a much more powerful way. If we transfer merit from the idea of an ego or personality, is very, very limited. But when we transfer merit from the idea that just this mind is the Buddha mind, just this mind is Guan Yin Pusa, it's powerful. It's incredibly powerful. And we use it in the right way to practice and help people. And it's very interesting. When I was practicing Qigong, I used to use a recitation to Guan Qin Pusa, Nam Guan Qin Pusa. So respect to Kuan Yin Bodhisattva when I was giving treatments. And so it was very effective. It helped me quite a bit. And then when I told Shifu that later, because this was during the time when I was transitioning from Qigong to Buddhism, and then he said that's fine. He said, but don't use it too often like that, because then we don't really see that the Kuan Yin is from within us, rather than to say, oh, please come and help this person. That power comes directly through us. And it's very amazing how it works that way. We're no longer asking for an external one. We are demonstrating the power of great compassion ourselves. I shouldn't say ourselves, through this body. Okay, so there's plenty more to come. Keep going. You're doing the right thing that you need to do to do this. You cannot believe how much more there is. Even I am just barely scratching the surface of it, and what I've scratched is absolutely amazing. When one can access the treasury of the Buddha, it's you'll find so many treasures in there. And again, I'm just like picking up the stuff from the dumpster outside the treasury, but it's pretty good. No, and very, very helpful. That didn't sound too good, but I don't want to say I've entered through into the door, but I'm whatever's there, I can use. So keep practicing.
Thank you so much.
Anything else? Anybody? Okay, well, we'll continue on next week. I tried very hard to present you something very meaningful, something that will affect you in the future. And so I'm really happy to do that and to try to think a little bit further outside the box. Again, I thank Santha for her time in helping me organize this and searching for a couple of more meaningful depictions or photos or paintings. So she really kind of understood where I was going with this, and I appreciate that. If you do, you'll see that there's some pretty amazing things. Again, the pictures themselves, they're a door that one uses to go through, and so that you can see it in this way. It's like what Lily was talking about, time. So too is form is the same thing, is that it's not fixed. And when you understand that, then we understand that our own mind creates everything. And when we understand that, that helps us a lot.